Carolyn Dube here. Oh, what's the play for today? Well, today it's all about some corny gel printing. Now, by corny, I don't mean like a dad joke. I mean like literally ears of corn, because this stuff is great for making patterns on a gel plate. When I saw this corn, I thought the pattern would be so much fun to play around with on a gel plate. So what you're seeing here in this video is my first experimentation with it. What I'm starting out by doing is just getting paint onto the corn. I'm just brushing on paint in a couple of different colors. Actually, I'm going to use 3 of them here. And the goal is just, again, to get paint on it. Now, paint will dry, so that's why I'm working somewhat quickly. I'm working very loosely because I got to get this whole thing covered in paint before any of it starts to dry. Now, that makes it sound so high pressure when it really isn't. Because what I'm going to do is get this paint on here and then see how it looks for the first print. And then I'll decide, do I need to use more paint, less paint? Because it's not like there is an exact precise amount of paint to use when painting on an ear of corn. All right, so now it's loaded with paint. It's time to see what this will look like as a print. So I'm going to put a little pressure on here. I'm going to roll that corn and see what comes from it. Now, there are some areas on the plate that are a little empty, so I'm simply going to just roll back in those areas to get some color everywhere. Normally I use white paper when I'm taking a pull, but I'm trying black cardstock this time. And the reason for that, I'm feeling so experimental with it, is a friend of mine, Kat Kerr, loves using black paper with her printing, and so I thought I'd give it a try and see how I like it. Such an organic look to this print. I love all that variation that's in there. Well, let's see what happens if I do this again. And so I'm going to add some paint on here, and yeah, I'm going in about the same place, but it's not like I'm staying exactly anywhere. Because again, I'm working kind of quickly just to get that wet paint on there so I can take the next print. So let's talk about this ear of corn that I'm using. It is a dried ear of corn, and it happens to be Indian corn, the very decorative, pretty corn that you'll often see bundled together around Thanksgiving as a home decor item. And yes, I've been saving this since then for when I had some time to just play around with it and see what it would do on the gel plate. I've always got my eyes open for things that can make interesting and fun patterns on the plate. Now, I am a city kid, so the only time I see dried corn like this is around Thanksgiving when people make decorations with them. But in talking to a friend of mine who's a little more agriculturally minded, she said that they do sell corn like this, corn on the cob, to feed to animals. It may not be as pretty as Indian corn, but that's not what's important. It's really all the wonderful shapes of the kernels. So if you want to play around with this technique, if you want to have fun with this very organic pattern maker, but you don't happen to have a cob of dried corn just lying around, then check out places like pet stores or farmer feed stores. So this print is from rolling that corn once down the plate. But what would it look like if I rolled it more than once? Well, one thing that I think I need to do if I'm going to roll the corn more than once on the plate is have more paint on the corn. So as I'm adding the paint this time, I'm actually going to be adding more paint. I'm going to be very, very generous with it so that I've got lots of paint that I can easily do multiple rolls of it on the plate. If you've done much gel printing before, you know how many possibilities there are with a plate. And if you're just getting started with gel printing and you're wondering what are some different ways you can make prints, I've got a video for you with 600 gel printing ideas in it, as well as everything you need to know to get started making a print and how to build up layers within a print. And there's also a PDF printable for you with it as well. If you're interested in this free video, I have a link down below for you where you can let me know where you'd like me to send it. I just blotted up a little of the paint that got on there from where the corn was resting on the plate. All right, so now it is time to load this plate up with lots more paint. Each roll of the corn is putting more paint onto the plate simply because I had more paint on the corn to start with. And I'm just going to go over any areas where I feel like there's not enough paint on the plate. And we're just going to see what happens with this print, what the pattern will look like as all those colors are mingling and playing together. Now, whatever paint that I don't end up using that's over there on my palette, it's not going to get wasted because that palette It is a 3x5 gel plate. So what'll happen is whatever paint's left over when I'm done, I will use that to take prints off of that little plate. That way, not a drop of paint ever has to be wasted. And that's the big reason why I really like using gel plates for paint palettes now, is because every little bit gets to be used. As much as I loved the first two prints, I love this one even more. I like the look when there's more paint on the corn, there's more paint on the plate, so probably not going to surprise you very much. That's what I'm going to do here for this print. But what about you? Which kind of print do you prefer here? Do you prefer the first two prints where there was less paint on the corn, and so when it just did the one roll, you could see the rows of corn, they were kept distinctly their own rows? Or do you like it when there's more paint on that corn cob, when the rows of corn sort of run together and you can't see them quite as individually as you could on the first two prints? Or maybe you like them both. Well, this to me is one of the great things about creating, making, gel printing, is because whichever way you like to do it, whichever way is best for you, you get to do it that way because there's no wrong way to do this. Something else that you have the complete freedom to do in the way that fits you is how much pressure you use when pushing the corn onto the plate. So as I'm rolling it here, I'm using medium pressure, because if I go really lightly, not as much of the paint transfers over onto the plate, and I like getting more of the paint. As I'm rolling that corn here, I'm about to run into an obstacle. Right there, it's one of the kernels that has fallen out of the ear, so I'm just going to move it out of the way and keep on going. This is also a reminder that this is a natural item, which means it's got a limited lifespan. Now, I have no idea how long an ear of dried corn normally lasts. I have no idea the proper way to keep it. I just like the texture on it. Now I've put paint on it. So what I'll do is just keep an eye on that ear of corn over the months when I'm playing with it. If at any point it starts to seem to rot, well, I'm going to get rid of it. But as long as it's holding up, you bet I'm going to keep using it to play around on the plate. Well, we're just about at the end of the video, so I want to say thank you so much for joining me for today's play. Thanks so much for stopping by and spending this time. And if you've been enjoying this video, if you've had fun, I'd so appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. And of course, if you know someone that would enjoy gel printing, share this video with them so they can join in the fun. Thanks so much for letting me be a part of your colorful journey.